Okay, so we have already completed a discussion on the section of Anapanasati. Okay? So in the Satipatthana Sutta, the next section that comes after Anapanasati under Kayanupassana will be the Iriyapada Pabba, the section on the Iriyapada. Iriyapada means the postures or the deportment. So your physical or bodily posture or your physical deportment. So 4 main postures are mentioned in this section. So walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. So these are the 4 main postures which all yogis should be familiar with. In fact, all human beings should be familiar with this because you go through your whole life adopting one after another of these 4 postures throughout your day. Okay? And we can meditate in any one of these 4 postures. Okay? However, the lying down posture, of course, not encouraged for beginners, because we always associate the lying down with what? With sleeping, right? So when you lie down, your mind automatically, there is a program that trigger. Now I go to sleep. So that's why you adopt these postures. If you are a beginner, it's very easy to fall asleep. Okay? So unless you are already very skillful in your practice, and your noting has got momentum, sometimes at the end of the day, even you lie down, you want to sleep also, you cannot sleep. So you have to wait until all the energy or your battery fall flat, and then only you can fall asleep. Okay? Sometimes the mind has a lot of energy. So you have to wait until the body becomes tired. And the body becomes tired, then you will fall asleep. So this posture is not advised for beginners. So you only use this when you are in a retreat. You only use this posture, lying down. When you are going to rest at night, then you lie down there, and then you meditate in that posture. You cannot lying down. So as for the other 3 postures, you can use them. So during the day. So usually in a retreat, we use the walking and the sitting posture. Right? So in order to balance the energy and the concentration. So the walking posture, it requires a lot of energy in order to sustain this posture. In order to walk continuously, you have to make effort, physical effort to walk, mental effort to note the process of walking. So it brings out a lot of energy, provided you are doing it properly. If you just chin chai, not lifting, pushing, placing, so then of course not much energy. maybe allow restlessness also. So you have to pay very careful attention to the process of lifting from beginning to the end, of pushing from beginning to the end, and placing down from beginning to the end. You follow it carefully, moment by moment. Then it brings out a lot of energy. Okay? So it tends to bring, this posture walking tends to bring out a lot of energy. Whereas sitting posture, so sitting is more still, right? So you sit there, you sit still, you don't move. So your base is stable, you cross your leg. So the base is stable. So you only need a little energy to hold the body upright. Right? So of course in the mind you need to note also. So, but it doesn't require as much energy as when you're walking. And furthermore, the body is still. The base is stable, the body is still. So this tends to support the mind to also become still. So the mind can easily sink into concentration, into samadhi. Okay? So this sitting posture tends towards samadhi. Okay? So as you know, too much energy or too much concentration is not helpful in the practice. So too much energy, it becomes tense, it becomes restless. The mind disturbed. Too much concentration, the mind becomes too still. It doesn't work. Sometimes it becomes frozen. Some yogis, too much concentration after sitting, they cannot get up. So the mind don't want to move. So it requires a lot of energy in order to get up. To make a deliberate effort to bring up the intention, even to move the body. It's too much concentration. So therefore, in a long retreat, a long intensive retreat, so we advise the yogi to balance between the walking and the sitting posture. So for beginners, we give you the schedule. 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting. Okay? Later on, so depending on your needs, the teachers might ask you, for example, you don't have enough samadhi, the teacher may ask you to sit longer. Sit longer than the walking. You don't have enough energy, the teacher might instruct you to walk longer and sit for a shorter period of time. Okay? But after some time when you practice and everything is well balanced, so in order to deepen the practice, you may be asked to sit a bit longer. And also walk a bit longer. So sitting and walking must be more or less balanced. Even if you extend the period of sitting, you must extend the period of walking so that they are balanced. Okay? Otherwise you sit too long, you have too much samadhi. You might end up, especially if you are not skillful enough yet to balance concentration and energy. Okay? But eventually when a yogi is skillful enough, so they can balance the concentration and energy regardless of which posture they adopt. Even in a sitting, not enough energy, they can bring up energy to balance the samadhi. So during walking also, too much energy, they can bring up samadhi during the walking in order to balance the energy. So ideally, you should work towards that. A situation where you can be balanced in any posture that you adopt. Okay? Yeah, but because our mind is inconsistent, because it's conditioned, so it's inconsistent. So therefore, it's still advisable, even if you can keep balance. You are skillful in keeping balance. It's still advisable generally to keep these two posture balance. As for standing posture, standing is actually somewhere in between the walking and sitting. Okay? So standing, you can be quite still also. You're just standing there. You're not moving. So the posture is also quite still. Not as still as when you're sitting, because the base is your 2 feet. So it's not as wide as when you sit down cross-legged. So the base is not as stable. But still your body is still. Yeah, but it can also wobble a bit, especially if you have weak legs. You can wobble a bit. So it's not as still as sitting, but it's of course more still than walking. But because it's still, more still than walking, the yogi can also sink into samadhi while standing. Okay. Yeah, but it requires a lot of effort also to hold this posture. Otherwise, the body will topple. Right. So. Yeah. So there's still some energy required for this posture. So in a way, it has quite a balance between energy and concentration. Okay, so on the one hand, because it's quite still, so you can sink into samadhi easier than the walking posture. On the other hand, there's also some energy required. Okay? So we can balance, there's some balance between the energy and the concentration and the standing posture. However, we don't usually advise standing posture, especially for beginners, because it can be a very challenging posture. Why? You go and try, then you know. Because it can be a lot of very intense sensation when you stand for 1 hour. Don't say 1 hour, even 15 minutes, half an hour. The sensation, the physical sensation that arises can be very intense. So because the weight of your body is weighing down on the feet, on the legs. So you feel pressure, very intense pressure building up as the hour progresses. So you feel a lot of pressure, heaviness on both legs. Okay. Yeah. So, but if you can handle this with noting, it can be a very good posture because of this intense sensation. It draws the mind towards it. If you can handle it, because the object is so clear, the mind can anchor very easily on this sensation. The samadhi can come. Very good samadhi can come. But it can be very challenging. So we don't usually recommend this for beginners. For those who have more experience, you can try. It's a very good posture. I was surprised myself when I first tried. So, actually, I first tried when I was caught in a situation where I have no choice. I was in Thailand at that time in one of the forest monastery in Chiang Mai. There during the dana, all the monks have to stand in a queue while they offer the food. So while they do all their chanting, we stand there. So very long, as they offer. Then after they offer, in Thailand they allow this ritual. So they want to extend it as long as possible. So offering, chanting, then the ajahn will give a talk. Sometimes the talk can last very long. So you stand there. Because you do not know Thai, you cannot listen to the Dhamma talk. So what to do? Just stand there and note and note. And then I found surprisingly, it's a very good posture. The mind can really sink in. But you must be able to handle the intense sensation. If you can handle it, it can be very good, very helpful. Okay, so these 4 postures are mentioned in this section, Iriyabhata Baba, section on the 4 postures. Okay, so the Buddha says, Punachaparam bhikkhave bhikkhu gaccanto va gaccamiti pajanati tito va titomiti pajanati nisino va nisino hiti pajanati sayano va sayano hiti pajanati yatha yatha va panasa kayo panihito hoti tata tatanam pajanati. So very short instruction. So Buddha says again, Punacha param bhikkhave, and again, bhikkhus. So he says, and again means to introduce a new section after Anapana. So in Anapana section, he introduced one way of practicing Kayanupassana. Now he's going to introduce another way of practicing Kayanupassana. So he says, Punacha param bhikkhave, and again, bhikkhus. So, bhikkhu gaccanto gaccamiti pajanati. So, a bhikkhu or a yogi, while he is going, going here means walking. While he is walking, gaccamiti pajanati, he knows clearly, distinctly, I am walking. Okay, and then so while he's walking, he knows clearly, I'm walking. Tito va titomiti pajanati. While he's standing, he knows clearly, distinctly, I'm standing. Here, standing doesn't mean just standing there. According to the way the commentary explained this, so it also includes the process of standing up. From sitting, you stand up, the whole process of standing up. So as you are standing up, he knows clearly, distinctly, I'm standing up, like this. Okay? So nisino va nisinom hiti pajanati. So while sitting, he knows clearly, distinctly, I'm sitting. Here again, sitting also means the process of sitting down. From the standing, you sit down. Okay, so you do a lot of this every day, right? When you start, before you start your sitting meditation, from standing, you sit down. Right? So, do you know clearly? Or you just sit down? Also, after sitting meditation, you want to get up to do walking, so standing up. So we must know clearly, distinctly, not just jump up. So, and then sayano va sayanomiti pajanati. In lying down, he knows clearly, distinctly, I'm lying down. Okay? So here again, it also means the process of lying down, as you are lying down. This is what Venerable Ananda did, right? When he attained arahantship, he was in the process of lying down, and he noted the process of lying down, and because of that, he attained arahantship. So don't underestimate this. And yata yatawa panasa kayo panihito hoti tata tata nam pajanati. So after mentioning these four postures, then the Buddha said, in whatever way the body is directed or disposed, in that way he knows clearly. He knows that body distinctly, clearly. Okay. So this is the instruction or the contemplation of the posture. Now usually you read the translation. They translate as knowing. He knows I'm walking. He knows I'm standing. So that's why many people, when they read this instruction, at one glance, you read this instruction by the Buddha, it may seem strange. Knowing, in walking, I know I'm walking. In standing, I know I'm standing. In sitting, I know I'm sitting. In lying down, I know I'm lying down. So if you have never practiced any meditation before, or you recite this instruction to somebody who has never meditated before, so you may think, really, is that all there is in meditation? Everybody knows that they are going when they are going, right? Everybody knows that they are standing when they are standing. Everybody knows that they are sitting when they are sitting. They know when they are lying down, that they are lying down, right? So, even animals also know, right? So how is this meditation? How is this satipatthana? So if you have such thought when you read this instruction, you're not alone. Actually, many people also think like this when they read this instruction. In fact, actually, people have been asking this question since the ancient days. So you find this. That's why in the commentary, the Satipatthana commentary to this section of the sutta, the commentator has to specifically raise this question, and then they address this question. So that means it was so important that many people must have asked this question during the time of the commentary in the ancient days. So it must have been a very important issue. That's why the commentator specifically raised this question in order to address it. Okay. And it's not just in ancient times. So even today also, there are many people, especially those who never meditated before, when they read this instruction, they find it confusing. Is this what you call meditation? So Mm. Yeah. So even near to our time also. So about slightly more than 100 years ago, when Mingun Zeta Wunsiado, you know who Mingun Zeta Wunsiado is? He's the meditation teacher of Mahasi Sayadaw. Mahasi Sayadaw actually learned his method of meditation from this Sayadaw, Mingun Zeta Wunsiado. Okay, so this Sayadaw, he started teaching this method way back in 1908. So when he started teaching, he just teach very simply in this way. He says, when you're going, you're just not going. When you're walking, just not walking. When you are standing up, you're not standing. When you're sitting down, you're not sitting. When you're lying down, lying down. When you're bending or stretching, you're not bending, stretching. So he teach in such simple way. Right? And people actually make fun of this method at that time. So I can read to you from the biography of this Sayadaw. Let me see. So this was from when he started teaching. So it says that the number of people who came and practiced with Sayadaw-ji. So Sayadaw-ji here refers to this Sayadaw, Mingun Zeta Wunsiado. The number of people who came and practiced with Sayadaw-ji and enjoyed their experience of Dhamma increased. But in Mingon, that's where he was teaching at that time. So in Mingon, there were still many local people who, like a spoon in the dish that never experienced the taste of it, unkindly criticize as follows. So the criticism, they says, this bhikkhu Narada, that's his name. His name was Unarada. Okay? So they says, Unarada has created a new method of mindfulness in a very weird way. Okay? So even at that time, you see, it's not just Mahasi Sayadaw. Mahasi Sayadaw, you all know, many people criticize him for introducing a new method of mindfulness. Even though actually what they introduce is based on the Satipatthana Sutta. Okay? So, in going, you're going there straight out of Satipatthana Sutta. Okay? So, but they criticize him. They say he has created a method of mindfulness in a very weird way. They say he instructed people to not going when going, standing when standing, sitting when sitting, reclining when reclining, and so on. How weird this teaching is. They said. So when going, how can it be that one would not know that he is going? So when standing, how can it be that one would not know that one is standing? So when you stand, you stand, right? When you walk, you walk. That's their criticism. And they say this kind of mindfulness is common to everyone, even to an animal like a dog and a pig. So, and actually, this criticism is exactly what was raised in the commentary, almost verbatim, actually. So, yeah. So that also shows that actually at that time, around that time, the turn of the century at that time, that even in Burma at that time, the Satipatthana Sutta was not widely known among the Burmese Buddhists at that time. If they know the Satipatthana Sutta, they wouldn't criticize in this way, because this instruction is straight out of the Satipatthana Sutta. Okay? Yeah. So in those days also, actually you can understand why there's this criticism, because you see, Burma in those days and even now, it's the land of the Abhidhamma scholars, right? So any meditation method must, when they talk about meditation, people will start thinking about citta, cetasika, meditation, and all the different kind of cittas, different kind of cetasikas, the mental states, the citta viti, the thought process, and then the rupa, all the different kinds of rupa, rupa kalapa, the material groups. So if your meditation method does not have anything like this, they find it weird. And this Sayadaw not only does not have all this Abhidhamma stuff in his basic instruction, he simply say, in going, you know you're going. In standing, you know you're standing. So you can understand why they criticize him. Okay? So, so because Abhidhamma was so well known, but Satipatthana Sutta, it seems, is not well known at that time. So this criticism may arise because of that. Okay. So even in those days, they criticize. Yeah. And actually, even Mahasi Sayadaw actually. So now Mahasi Sayadaw, he was before he even practiced. Before he went to practice under the Sayadaw, he was already a very accomplished scholar himself. He has been teaching the scriptures, the Tipitaka, the commentaries to many monks back in his monastery that he was staying in at that time. Okay? And it is said that before he went to practice, he has already made a thorough study of the Satipatthana Sutta, as well as the commentary. Okay? So he knows about the Satipatthana Sutta. He knows the instruction in the Satipatthana Sutta. So when he went to learn this method from this Sayadaw, so he has some faith in this method. Okay, but even though he has faith in the method that is taught to him by this Mingun Zedawun Sayadaw, but even for him, he thought that it cannot be that simple. So he thought that this must be just the basic instruction. Okay? Later on, maybe a more profound instruction will be given. So even he thought like this. Okay? So from the biography of the Sayadaw again, this is talking about when Mahasi Sayadaw first went to practice under him. So he said that the Sayadaw, Mingun Sayadaw Ji, took about an hour explaining the passage concerning this noting of the walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. It took about an hour explaining this passage to Mahasi Sayadaw. So he explained phrase by phrase in detail. And then it says, much to his delight and gratification, Venerable Sobhana, that is Mahasi Sayadaw. At that time, he was not yet known as Mahasi Sayadaw. So they started calling him Mahasi Sayadaw after he had started teaching. Before that, he was simply known as Usobana. That is his monk's name. Okay, so it says, much to his delight and gratification, Venerable Sobhana, having listened to Sayadaw's Ji teaching, firmly realized that what Sayadaw Ji had taught was totally based on his own experience of Dhamma rather than scriptural knowledge. And then respectfully following the advice given by Sayadaw Ji, Venerable Sobhana started his retreat from that very night. Okay? So during the first few days, he taught the instruction given to not going, standing, sitting, reclining, bending, stretching. This instruction would be the basic instruction, and further and higher instruction would be given later when he has made remarkable progress in the practice. Okay? However, when his practice improved later to some extent, he realized that the mindfulness developed by noting one's bodily and mental behaviors, such as going, standing, thinking, and so on, is not just the beginning of Vipassana practice, but the middle and the end of it too. Because by noting in this way, one can see mind and matter as they really are. So no further instruction would be needed. So before that, even though he was familiar with Satipatthana Sutta, still he thought that, maybe this is just the basic. There may be still deeper instruction coming. Okay? That was before he started meditation. Okay? But once he has gained some experience, then he realized this instruction in itself is already sufficient. So simply by following this instruction, one will gradually come to discern clearly nature of the nama rupa, or the sabbhava, sankata lakkhana, samanya lakkhana, all can be realized simply by following this very simple instruction. And it is because of this very simple instruction that Mingun Zeta Wun Sayadaw gave, that it opens up the way for lay people to come and practice meditation. Because prior to this, instruction of meditation is all tied up with Abhidhamma. So you need to have some good knowledge of Abhidhamma in order to practice Vipassana meditation. Okay? So it's very, very complex. So at that time, before that, meditation is more the province of monks. Okay? So, but now with this simple instruction, even the ordinary folks, I always say the auntie uncles in the street, they can follow very simple instruction and yet experience profound Dhamma. So therefore, when the Buddha says, he gives this instruction, when going, you are going, when standing, you are standing, and so on. Okay? So the knowing here that the Buddha referring to is not an ordinary knowing, not the ordinary knowing that is the common knowledge of our everyday life. The kind of knowledge that is shared in common by all beings, even animals, not this type of knowledge. Because such kind of knowledge does not arise from meditation. does not arise from Satipatthana. Right? You do not need to practice Satipatthana in order to have such shallow knowledge. Right? So this kind of knowledge is not penetrative knowledge that leads to liberation from dukkha. Okay? Yeah, because when ordinary people or even animals, when they know I'm walking, I'm standing, I'm sitting, and so on. So first of all, when they know walking, right? For example, when they know walking, they do not see clearly that there's an intention behind the walking. They do not see the intention or the impulsion to walk. Right? Neither do they see the resulting movement from the impulsion or the intention. They do not see this clearly. They are just walking, happily walk, right? Not really paying careful attention. So they do not discern clearly both the intention as well as the movement of walking. Okay, so needless to say, they cannot discern the distinction between the mental nature of the impulsion or intention and the physical nature of the movement of walking. Okay, so they do not see that there are these two nature there, right? So they do not even know that there is some nature there. So, and they also do not have the realization that the impulsion or the intention is the cause of the movement of walking. Right? They cannot discern this clearly. Okay? Yeah. And so in other words, they cannot see clearly that in the act of walking, there's only this intention, impulsion, and the act of walking. That there's a series of impulsion giving rise to a series of movement. Okay? So they cannot see this clearly. The moment to moment, there's an intention giving rise to a movement. And then another intention, another movement, another intention, another movement. Okay? They cannot see, discern clearly this series of intention and the movement. Okay? And of course, they cannot see clearly that each of these pair of intention and movement, they arise and disappear, one after another. They arise there, they disappear right there. And then another one arises and disappear right there. So they cannot discern clearly that there's this series of impulsion and movement that arise one after another, arising, disappearing, one after another. Yeah. So they do not have a clear, deep discernment of the nature of walking. Okay? So, and also, even though they say that they know I'm walking, they know I'm standing, and so on, but the knowing is also not continuous. Right? Unlike a yogi, when he knows going, walking, he knows the walking continuously. The process of walking, he knows it continuously without a break. But for those who don't practice Satipatthana noting, so the knowing is not only superficial; it doesn't occur continuously. Right? You only know sometimes. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't know. Even in those moments when you know, also you do not know completely. Sometimes you know the beginning of the walking. Sometimes you know the middle of it. Sometimes you know the end of it. But rarely do you know the beginning, middle, and end. So, because most of the time, the attention is not on the walking. Right? When you are walking, your attention is not on the walking most of the time. Mostly the mind is distracted, right? Thinking about many different kinds of worldly matters, right? So even when the attention in those rare moments, when the attention is on the walking, still the attention is very shallow. It's on the surface of it. There's like a touch and go kind of experience. So therefore the attention is not a very careful attention. You're not contemplating the process of walking carefully. It's just a superficial surface attention. Okay? So because I'm not contemplating carefully, usually you assume that there is somebody there who is walking, right? You assume there's a person there. Somebody is there walking. So, and you assume also that this person does not change. It's the same person. In other words, this person is permanent. It's the same person that was walking before this. It's the same person that's walking now. And it will be the same person that will continue to walk after this. Right? So there's an assumption in the mind. Right? So when you do not observe carefully the process of walking. So let's say if you walk from here, from Kota Tinggi, you walk to Johor Bahru. So when you arrive at Johor Bahru, you will think that the person who arrived in Johor Bahru is the same person who began the journey earlier in Kota Tinggi, right? Yeah. So you think there's the same person. It was the same person in Kota Tinggi. It was the same person when you pass Ulu Tiram. Then when you arrive in JB, and it's the same person again. Later on, let's say you intend to walk to Singapore, you will think, when I arrive in Singapore, it still be the same person. But now you cannot walk to Singapore. Border is closed. So this kind of knowing, superficial knowing, does not help us to abandon the idea or the view of a being. We take it for granted that a being really exists. This person really exists. Okay? So, and not only that, we also identify this being, identify with it as I am walking, right? I am standing, I am sitting, and so on. So therefore this knowing also do not help us to remove the attasanya, the perception of an I, perception of a self. Okay? It does not help us to remove this. Okay? In fact, sometimes it kind of reinforces it also. So therefore, you see, this kind of knowing, it cannot be the result of meditation. Such a superficial knowing, so it cannot be a result of meditation, result of kammatthana, because there's no development of clear, penetrative knowledge that leads to liberation. If it is kammatthana, if it is meditation, you will develop very clear, deep, penetrative knowledge that leads to liberation. Okay, so it is also not a result of satipatthana, because the mind is not firmly established on the process of walking to observe it carefully, deeply, penetratively. So therefore, what the Buddha meant in this section is not this kind of knowledge. Okay? Yeah. And so as we said, here also, in this section also, just as in the section of Anapanasati, the Buddha used the word pajanati. He didn't use the word janati, he used pajanati. So if he says janati, then you can say simply knowing. But here Buddha says pajanati. That means to know clearly, know distinctly. Okay? As we explained the other time, pajanati is the verb for panya, wisdom. Okay? So wisdom is the noun, pajanati is the verb. So here it means knowing with wisdom, knowing with clear knowledge. Okay? So it's not ordinary knowing. It's knowing that is born of meditation, born of satipatthana. So for a yogi who is carrying out this instruction of the Buddha, so you start off very simply, right? When you go, when you walk, you know you're walking, right? So, of course, we give you more detailed instruction than this. So, you know, right step, right step, left step. Then slowly you do two step, two phase, lifting, placing, lifting, placing. Then after that, when you settle in more, lifting, pushing, placing, lifting, pushing, placing. So you can go on and on, up to 6 steps in the commentary. 6 step is raising, lifting, pushing, lowering, touching, and then pressing down. So 6 steps. So when your samadhi is very good, you can slow down and observe more and more steps, up to these 6 steps. Sometimes actually you can break it down more than 6 steps if you want. But you must have very good samadhi before you do this. So that means you don't think anymore about lifting or pushing or dropping. You just walk. But you go very slowly. But because your samadhi is very good, as you go slowly, you can distinguish one movement after another, continuously, from the beginning of the step until the end of the step. There can be more than 6 steps. Can be 20, 30, 50, depending on how clear your noting is. Continuously, you don't care about the steps anymore. You go, you just say walking, then you go slowly, observe moment by moment. So, but this instruction is only when your mindfulness is already very well developed. You can observe very clearly all the minute sensation or the minute intention that arise moment to moment, clearly. Okay? So although you begin very simply by noting, lifting, pushing, placing, lifting, pushing, placing, but as the samadhi develops, the mind becomes clearer, and clearer. And then you begin to discern the nature behind this process of walking. So usually in walking, the yogi will not, when the mind is clear, you will be able to pick up before every movement, there is always the impulsion in the mind, which we usually call intention. But the impulsion is a better word. That is really a very subtle impulsion. So it's just something in the mind prodding you to walk, prodding you to move. So it's just like very subtle flashes in the mind, and then it's gone. That's why your mind has to be very clear and sensitive in order to discern this impulsion. So yogi usually pick up this impulsion when the mind is clear. So you can note this impulsion, and then immediately, when the impulsion flashes forth, the motion of walking appear. Okay, so both will be discerned clearly. Okay, so when the mind is clear, yogi can discern these two very clearly. There's an impulsion, and then there is the act of walking, the movement. Okay, and then the yogi will realize very clearly this impulsion is one nature. The motion, walking, is another nature. They do not mix together. They see it very distinctly. There's two nature there. Okay? So the impulsion, the nature of impulsion does not mix into the nature of walking. The nature of walking does not mix into the nature of the impulsion. Because of the clear knowledge, the knowledge can distinguish clearly between these two. And of course, the yogi can also discern clearly that it's because of the impulsion that the motion of walking arises. Okay, so if there's no impulsion, there will be no motion. So the yogi can note this very clearly. They notice this very clearly. Okay, so each part of the walking, like when you're raising the foot, so a yogi can tell very clearly that there's an impulsion, and then a motion of raising starts, and then another impulsion arises, and then it raises further. Another impulsion, and then it raises further. So this series of impulsion, series of motion continue to occur until the foot has been fully raised. And then another impulsion arises. So impulsion to lift, then the movement of lifting starts to occur. So in each section of the walking, the yogi can discern a series of impulsion, a series of motion. So in raising, there's impulsion, raising, impulsion, raising, impulsion, raising. In lifting, there's impulsion, lifting, impulsion, lifting, impulsion, lifting. Pushing forward again is impulsion, then pushing, impulsion, pushing. So to be able to observe like this, that's why you have to go very slowly. If you go just finish, you see nothing. The interview come, nothing. So a yogi, that's why a yogi, when they are in samadhi, during walking, they really go very slowly, and they can see very clearly, moment to moment, minute detail, each impulsion, each motion, each impulsion, motion. And they can see clearly each impulsion and the motion arises there, disappear. And then another pair arises and disappear. Another pair arises, disappear. Each one separate from the other. Between the pair of impulsion and the movement also, it's very distinctly clear they are two different natures. So whatever arises there, it disappears there. It doesn't arrive at the next moment. Okay, so in the next moment, a fresh aggregate arises, a fresh set of impulsion and an emotion arises. So that also disappears there. It doesn't arrive at the next moment. Okay, whatever arises just disappear there. So moment after moment after moment, the yogi realize as he is observing carefully the process of walking, he realizes there is only this impulsion and the motion, moment after moment. Okay? There's no being here. There's no person here. There's no self here that is doing the walking. So when the yogi first realized this, he also realized that when people say, I am walking, and this is just a mere conventional expression without any real basis in reality. In reality, there is only this process, mental, physical process going on moment by moment. There's only a series of intentions giving rise to a series of movement, one after another after another. Okay? And each of this mental, physical nature, impulsion and the movement, they arise and disappear right there. Okay? So moment after moment, the yogi discern that whatever arises immediately disappear. So the yogi comes to realize the nature of impermanence while he's contemplating the process of walking. He also discern that because they are continuously arising, disappearing, the moment they arise, they disappear instantly. Again and again, things are disappearing. Okay? Moment after moment, things are arising, disappearing, arising, disappearing. It seems never ending. So as the yogi note this continuously, gradually begin to discern the oppressive nature of this continuous arising and disappearing. So he comes and realize the nature of dukkha in this process of walking. Okay. So in this way, while noting carefully the process of walking, going, I know he knows I'm going. Simply by noting this, gradually the yogi come to discern clearly the nature of impermanent suffering and non-self in this process of walking. Okay? So this is a deep, profound knowing that the yogi developed while following this instruction. This is a totally different kind of knowing from the ordinary kind of knowing in everyday life that which even animals know. Okay, so this kind of knowing is liberative knowing. So the knowledge that's developed through this type of knowing can lead to the realization of the cessation of suffering. Okay? So this is what the Buddha meant by this instruction. So as we're walking also, we're standing, we're sitting down, lying down also. The yogi notes step by step as you are standing up. So you slowly note intention to get up, then slowly, bit by bit, the body lifting up, lifting up, lifting up, lifting up. You note carefully, you can see the series of intention. You get up, not yet finished. So the mind will prod you further. Move. Not finished yet, move. So one after another, the impulsion arise. Asking you, move, 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 until you're completely standing up. So the series of impulsion and the series of movement occurring. If you slow down and observe carefully. So same thing while you're sitting down. Same when you're lying down or when you're getting up after lying down. So you slow down, you observe with careful attention in the way of satipatthana, not precisely moment by moment by moment with ardent, energetic effort, with mindfulness, with clear comprehension. Then you can penetrate the nature of this process, mental physical process that's going on in the process of walking, standing up, sitting down, lying down. So this is what the Buddha meant. Okay. Yeah, we'll continue with more discussion on this section in the next talk. Let's stop here today. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Buddham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Sangham Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Mata Pitunam Pujemi. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Acariyanam Pujemi. Adha imaya Patipadaya Jaram Ranamaha Primochesami. Idam me punyam asavakaya vaham hotu. Idam me punyam nibbanassa pacayo hotu. Idam me silam magabhalanyanassa pacayo hotu. Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema. Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema. Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So may all of you be well, happy and peaceful always. May all of you be strong, be healthy, be safe always. May you all be able to continuously and faithfully practice the Dhamma. May your practice be without obstacle, hindrances. May it always be smooth. And may you soon be able to experience the unconditioned peace of Nibbana through your practice of Dhamma.